Liam never believed in signs. He was practical, quiet, the kind of man who took the same train to work every morning, sat in the same seat, and read the same section of the newspaper. But something had changed. It started with a dream, just one at first. In the dream, he stood alone on a snowy train platform. Cold air, silence, and then music. Soft, distant, impossible to place. That's when he saw her. A woman dancing alone in the snow. She moved like she was floating, spinning, gliding, turning, like the world around her didn't exist. He couldn't see her face. It was always turned away or covered by a scarf. But every time, he woke up with the same feeling, like he had just lost something or someone. The dreams didn't stop. Night after night, the same moment. Snowfall. A dance. A woman he had never met. And yet, it felt more familiar each time. Like he should know her. Like he used to know her. He told no one. Not even his sister, who was the only person he confided in. She would have laughed. Said it was just stress. Just imagination. Maybe it was. But the feeling lingered. One Saturday morning, before the city had woken up, he sat at his kitchen table and opened an old sketchbook he hadn't used in years. He couldn't draw well, but that wasn't the point. He needed to see her, needed to put something down, anything. He drew the platform first, then the outline of the woman, her coat, the scarf, the way her arm reached out mid-twirl, just like in the dream. He couldn't quite get her face, so he left it blank. But everything else, it felt right. He didn't know why he kept the sketch. He didn't believe in fate, or soulmates, or dreams that meant something. But the drawing stayed in his bag, tucked inside a folder he didn't use. And even though he never told anyone, he looked at it sometimes when the world felt too quiet. Weeks passed. The dream stopped. Life moved on. Then came that cold Thursday morning. Liam's alarm didn't go off. He rushed to dress, didn't eat breakfast, and left the apartment irritated. The streets were wet, the wind sharp. And as he turned the corner toward the station, he saw the train pulling away. He cursed under his breath. That had never happened before. Frustrated, he checked the board. Next train, 23 minutes. He sighed and took a seat on the wooden bench. The cold crept through his coat. The platform was half empty. Just a few people checking their phones or sipping coffee. He opened his bag, pulled out his sketchbook without thinking, and stared at the drawing again. Snow began to fall. Slowly, gently, just like in a dream. He didn't notice it at first, but the air grew quieter. Still, as if something was about to happen. Then, somewhere in the distance, he heard music. Not from a phone, not from a speaker. Live, faint, like it was drifting through time. He looked up, searching for the source. But he didn't expect what came next. Because just beyond the far end of the platform, a woman appeared. And she was dancing. Liam didn't move. He couldn't. His breath caught in his throat as he watched the woman glide across the platform, spinning slowly in the falling snow. It was just like the dream. Not similar. Not close. Exact. Her coat flared with every turn. A red scarf floated behind her, flicking in the wind. Her boots tapped softly against the ground, barely making a sound, yet somehow in perfect rhythm with the faint music that still drifted through the air. He blinked hard, convinced his eyes were playing tricks. But she was still there, still dancing. Every movement she made stirred something in him. Not just recognition, something deeper. Like watching a memory form in real time. She turned, arm lifted high, and for a brief moment, the scarf fell just enough for him to glimpse her face. It was soft focused, like she wasn't dancing for anyone, but couldn't help doing it anyway. She looked peaceful, entirely in her own world. Liam's heart was pounding. He reached for the sketchbook, still open in his lap. The page stared back at him. The woman mid-twirl, scarf in motion, arm lifted exactly like she was doing now. It didn't make sense. He looked from the page to her, back and forth. He felt dizzy. This wasn't just similar. This wasn't coincidence. This was her. She was real. But how? How had he dreamed of her before ever seeing her? He stood slowly, afraid any sudden move would break the moment. He took a few steps forward, careful not to draw attention. He didn't want to interrupt her. Didn't even know if he should. But he needed to be closer. He needed to be sure. The music played on, slightly louder now, coming from a man with an old violin near the far wall. Liam hadn't even noticed him before. The man's eyes were closed, as if he was playing more for himself than anyone else. And still, she danced. Liam stopped a few feet away, close enough to see the detail in her scarf. The small silver pin near her collarbone. The way snow clung gently to the ends of her hair. His hand tightened around the sketchbook. He wanted to say something, anything, but words felt too heavy, too sudden. Then, as if she sensed him, she stopped. Her last spin slowed, her boots landing with a soft crunch in the snow. She lowered her arms, exhaled, and looked up, straight at him. Their eyes met, for the first time in real life, but not for the first time at all. There was no shock in her expression, no alarm, only a quiet curiosity, a calm recognition, like she had been expecting this all along. Liam's mouth opened slightly, but nothing came out. He just stood there, holding the sketchbook like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. Her eyes dropped to the notebook in his hands. She tilted her head, taking a few steps forward. Then her voice broke the silence. "That's me," she said softly. Liam could barely breathe. "I drew this," he replied, "weeks ago, before I ever saw you." She nodded once, as if she already knew that. The train roared in from the distance, growing louder. But neither of them moved. Not yet. Because, for a moment, in the middle of a crowded, snow-covered platform, two strangers stood face to face. And both of them already felt like they'd met before. The train pulled into the station with a long screech, but neither Liam nor the woman turned to look. People around them stood, shuffled, adjusted bags. Some glanced their way, curious. Most didn't. But Liam noticed none of it. She didn't speak again right away. She just kept staring at the sketch, still in his hands, still open to the same page. Her gaze softened as she stepped closer. He finally managed to say, "I don't know what this means." She gave a small smile. Not confusion, not disbelief, just something quiet, thoughtful, like she was putting together pieces that had never fit until now. "You really drew this before today?" she asked. He nodded. "I don't even know your name, but I've seen you. Not just once. For weeks. In dreams." She looked back at the drawing, then at him. "I've never had that kind of dream," she said. "But this morning, when I woke up, I felt like I had to come here. I always come here this time of the year, but today was different. I got up without thinking. I didn't even bring my phone." "Why do you come here?" Liam asked, careful with his words. Her eyes shifted, and something deeper moved behind them. "My mother used to dance. Right here. When I was a kid, she'd bring me to this station every winter, and she'd dance on the platform like nobody was watching. She said the cold made her feel alive." Liam stayed silent. "She passed away 3 years ago," she continued. "I started coming back, dancing where she used to, just once a year, on the same day. No reason other than it felt right." She looked back at him. "But this time, before I even stepped outside, I felt like something was waiting. Or someone." Liam wasn't sure what to say. The air between them felt heavy, like it was full of something that hadn't happened yet. Something important. He glanced at the sketch again, still trying to make sense of it. "I've drawn all my life," he said. "Nothing serious. But this was different. I couldn't stop. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw you. That exact pose. The snow. Even the scarf." She touched the scarf gently, like she'd only just remembered she was wearing it. "I almost didn't wear this today," she said. "It belonged to my mom. But something told me to." Liam let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Everything felt too specific to ignore. The dreams. The sketch. The scarf. Her dance. His missed train. The snow. Even the violinist, still playing just a few feet away, as if nothing around them was unusual. He looked into her eyes, finally asking, "Do you believe in things happening for a reason?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked around the station, at the snow-covered tracks, the worn wooden benches, the people coming and going, all wrapped in their own lives. Then she met his gaze again. "I don't know if I ever did," she said. "But right now, I don't think this is random." Liam nodded slowly. Neither of them had moved. They stood near the edge of the platform, the sketch still between them. A crowd flowed around them, but they didn't feel part of it. The train behind them began to pull away. The moment had stretched longer than it should have. But neither of them cared. She reached out and touched the corner of the sketchbook, her fingers brushing his. "I'm Alara," she said finally. Liam smiled. "I'm Liam." And in that moment, they both understood something simple and impossible to explain. They hadn't just found each other. They'd been finding each other for a long time. Ilara looked down at the sketch again, her fingertips still resting lightly on the page. The way she touched it wasn't casual. It was careful, like she understood how much it meant to him. Or maybe she just understood because it meant something to her, too. Liam didn't say anything. He didn't know how to put it into words. How could he explain that he had drawn a stranger over and over again, not because he chose to, but because he couldn't stop? Because something in him needed to remember a moment that hadn't even happened yet? She looked up. "You've really been seeing me in your dreams?" "Yes. Every night. Always in the snow. Always dancing. Here." He nodded. "Right here. This station. That exact spot." She stepped back slightly, looking around as if seeing the platform for the first time. "I've never seen you here before. I take the early train. Every day. I've never missed it. Not once. Until today." They were quiet again. The violinist had finished playing, and the hush that followed made the air feel heavier. The snowfall had lightened, just a few flakes drifting now. But the cold settled around them. Ilara folded her arms. "I almost didn't come. I've had a rough couple of months. I thought maybe I'd let the tradition go this year. But this morning, something just pulled me here." Liam watched her closely. "Do you believe in connections that exist before people meet?" "I didn't," she said softly. "But I also never thought a stranger would sketch me into existence before I ever met him." He let out a small breath of laughter. It wasn't funny, but it also kind of was. The absurdity, the impossibility, the quiet truth underneath all of it. She glanced around again. "I feel like I'm supposed to be somewhere else right now, but I don't want to be." "Neither do I," he said quickly. "I mean, I missed my train, but this feels more important." Her eyes met his again. Something flickered there. Not fear, not confusion. Something that looked a lot like recognition. And it gave Liam the courage to ask something he wouldn't normally say to someone he'd just met. "Would you sit with me for a few minutes?" Ilara didn't hesitate. "Yes, I'd like that." They walked over to the bench where Liam had been sitting earlier. The sketchbook was still in his hands. He closed it gently and placed it beside him. She sat down next to him, not too close, but not far either. The kind of distance that felt like it was closing on its own. For a while, they didn't speak. People moved around them. Trains came and went. Announcements echoed through the station. But none of it touched them. He looked over. So your mother danced here? She wasn't a professional or anything. But she believed that ordinary places could hold beautiful memories. She used to say, this world will always feel cold if you forget how to move through it. So every winter, she danced. Right here. Just once. No audience. No applause. Just joy. That's beautiful. It was, Elara said. I think part of me comes here to remember that. But part of me comes hoping I'll feel close to her again. Liam nodded slowly. Maybe that's what this is. What do you mean? Maybe your mother brought you here today, so we'd meet. Elara looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. I'd like to believe that. And somehow Liam did too. The longer they sat, the harder it became for Liam to remember this was real. That she was real. Elara. The name had echoed in his mind like he'd heard it before, maybe in one of the dreams, though he couldn't be sure. Now, it was the only name he wanted to say. He glanced at her. She was watching the snow drift through the open edge of the platform roof. Her scarf moved gently with the wind. She wasn't smiling, but her expression was calm, peaceful, like the kind of silence you don't want to break. I don't usually talk to strangers, she said, without looking at him. He nodded. Neither do I. But you're not exactly a stranger, are you? Liam smiled. Feels like I've known you a long time. She turned her head slightly, eyes meeting his. Maybe we met before and just forgot. Maybe, he said. Or maybe we're remembering now. A train announcement buzzed overhead. People stood, checked their watches, gathered their things. But the sound barely touched them. The bench felt like its own world, separate from the noise and schedules and cold logic of the outside. Elara pulled her coat tighter. This place is different in the snow. Quieter. It's how I saw it in every dream, Liam said. Always snowing. Always quiet. Always you. She studied his face, not with disbelief, but with a strange kind of curiosity, like she was still trying to figure out if any of this made sense, or if sense even mattered anymore. I don't know what to do with this, she said softly. It's not just unusual. It feels impossible. I know, Liam said, but I don't want to walk away from it. Do you? She shook her head. No, I don't. Another silence passed, but it didn't feel awkward. It felt full. Like there were still too many things they hadn't said, but there would be time for them. Elara looked at the violinist, who was now sitting quietly on a crate near the far wall, his bow resting on his lap. Do you think he's part of this, too? Liam followed her gaze. I didn't even see him when I got here. I did. Right before I started dancing. I usually bring headphones, play something from my phone. But today I just listened. It felt like the music was already waiting for me. You think it was meant to be? I don't know what I believe, she said. But I know I've never danced like that before. Not here. Not anywhere. He smiled again, quietly. You looked like you belonged there. Elara's eyes flicked toward him, thoughtful. And you looked like you were supposed to see it. Liam's heart beat a little faster at that. Not from nerves. From truth. I almost didn't come today, he said. I almost gave up on the sketch. Thought maybe I was just losing it. But something kept telling me not to stop. Elara brushed snow from her sleeve. Something brought both of us here. They didn't say what. They didn't have to. Not yet. Suddenly, she stood. Liam looked up, surprised. I want to show you something, she said. He stood too. Where? Just over there. It's small, but it matters. She walked a few steps, then stopped. Turned. You're coming, right? Liam didn't hesitate. Yes. And just like that, he followed her, sketchbook in hand, heart steady but uncertain. Because sometimes, when life finally gives you a moment that doesn't make sense, the only thing that does is walking toward it. Ilara led Liam away from the busy platform, down a narrow corridor lined with old brick walls stained by years of rain and snow. The sounds of the station faded behind them, replaced by the quiet hum of distant trains and the occasional clatter of footsteps on concrete. "This place," she said softly, "is where my mother used to wait for her own train. She said it was her secret spot. Not many people knew about it." Liam looked around. The space was small and dim, lit only by a single flickering lamp. It felt like stepping back in time. The air smelled faintly of old wood and damp earth. Ilara paused in front of a weathered wooden bench, its paint chipped and faded. "She told me once that this bench held memories, that if I sat here long enough, I might feel the past breathing around me." Liam sat down slowly, his sketchbook still clutched in his hands. He glanced at her, surprised to see a softness in her eyes, a vulnerability that hadn't been there on the platform. "Why did she choose this place?" he asked. Ilara smiled faintly. "Because it was quiet. Because it was hidden. Because she wanted to dance somewhere no one would watch, but where the world could still hear her heart." The weight of her words settled between them. Liam felt a sudden warmth spread through his chest, the cold snow outside forgotten for a moment. "I think she wanted you to find this place," he said quietly. "And to find her." Ilara's eyes searched his. "Do you really believe that?" "I don't know what to believe anymore," Liam admitted. "But I know I've never felt this before. Like I'm part of something bigger than myself." She nodded slowly, then reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small, worn music box. It was painted a soft cream color, with delicate floral designs etched along the edges. "My mother gave this to me," Ilara said. "She told me it held a song that could bring peace when the world felt too loud." She wound the tiny key, and a soft, haunting melody began to play. Liam listened, mesmerized by the gentle notes weaving through the air, filling the quiet space with something almost magical. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Ilara smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "I've always hoped it would help me feel close to her again. Today, for the first time, I felt that." Liam reached out, hesitating for a moment before placing his hand over hers on the music box. "Maybe she sent you here today. Maybe this moment was meant to happen." Ilara's gaze held his, steady and sure. "I think you're right." They sat together in silence, the music box's tune echoing softly, as if the past and present had finally found a way to meet. Outside, the snow began to fall heavier, blanketing the world in quiet white. Inside this small, forgotten corner of the station, two strangers connected through a thread of memories and dreams that neither fully understood, but both deeply felt. Liam finally opened his sketchbook again. He flipped past the page with her dancing figure and found a blank sheet. Without thinking, he began to draw, this time a new picture. One of the bench, the music box, and the two of them sitting quietly, bound by a story neither could explain. Ilara watched him, her smile growing warmer. "You're a good artist." "Not really," Liam said with a shy laugh. "But this feels different." "It's not about skill," she said. "It's about the heart behind the drawing." The train announcement echoed faintly in the distance, reminding them the world outside was still moving. But neither of them wanted to leave just yet. As the music box's song played on, Liam and Ilara shared a moment suspended between past and future, a beginning written in snow music, and the quiet hope of finding something real when it seemed impossible. For the first time in a long time, Liam felt the weight of his dreams lift, replaced by something clearer, something true. And Ilara felt, finally, that her mother's dance had not been forgotten. It had only just begun. As the last notes of the music box faded into the quiet air, Liam closed his sketchbook gently, feeling a strange mix of hope and uncertainty swirling inside him. Ilara's eyes glistened with emotion, and for a moment, words felt unnecessary. The space between them was filled with something neither had expected, a fragile connection, as real as the snowflakes drifting outside. Liam looked at her and said softly, "I don't want this to end here. I don't want this to be just a moment frozen in time." Ilara nodded slowly. "Neither do I. But where do we go from here? How do two people, connected by dreams and memories, make sense of it all?" He shrugged, feeling the weight of the question. "I guess we take it one step at a time. Like your mother said, move through the cold and find the warmth." She smiled, a spark of courage lighting her face. "Maybe we start by sharing stories. Not just about dreams or dances, but who we really are." Liam leaned back on the bench, looking up at the low ceiling and flickering light. "I'm an artist. Not a famous one, not even professional. Just someone who sketches to keep his thoughts straight. But lately, I've felt like I'm chasing something I can't catch." Ilara listened closely. "What is it?" He hesitated. "I think I was chasing a feeling. Something I saw in a dream. Something I didn't understand until now." She reached out, brushing snowflakes from his coat. "Maybe you were chasing me." He smiled, a little embarrassed. "Maybe." Ilara glanced at the old music box, still resting between them. "You said your dreams were always of me, here, dancing in the snow. But what if the dreams were of this moment instead? Of finding someone who understands the silence?" Liam's heart raced. "I think you're right." Outside, the train station began to empty as the evening deepened. The cold crept closer, but neither of them wanted to leave the warmth they had found. They stood slowly, the old wooden bench creaking under their weight as they rose together. "Will you meet me again?" Liam asked. Ilara hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Yes. I want to know what happens next." They walked back toward the platform, the sound of distant trains mingling with the steady fall of snow. People hurried past, oblivious to the quiet story unfolding between two strangers who felt like old friends. Before parting, Ilara stopped and pulled from her pocket a small folded note. She handed it to Liam, her fingers brushing his briefly. "Call me." He unfolded the note carefully. It had only her name and a phone number, but to Liam it was a promise. A lifeline to the impossible connection they had discovered. "I will," he said. Ilara smiled, a genuine hopeful smile. "I think this is just the beginning." Liam watched her walk away, her red scarf trailing behind like a flame against the snow. As she disappeared into the crowd, he felt something he hadn't in a long time, a sense of possibility. The night was cold, and the station was nearly empty, but Liam didn't feel alone. The sketchbook was tucked under his arm, the image of her dancing still vivid in his mind. He took out his phone and stared at the screen, the note's number glowing softly. His fingers hovered over the keypad, uncertain but eager. Then he pressed the call button. On the other end, Ilara answered almost immediately, her voice warm and steady. "Hello, Liam." "Hi, Ilara," he said, heart pounding. "It's me." For the first time, distance didn't feel like a barrier. They talked for hours, sharing pieces of their lives, their hopes, their fears. The impossible moment at the train station had opened a door, a chance to rewrite the stories they thought were already written. As dawn approached, Liam looked out his window at the lingering snow. Something had shifted inside him. A dream had come alive, and with it a new beginning. Ilara was no longer just a figure in his dreams or a sketch on a page. She was real, and this time he wasn't going to let her slip away. Days passed, and Liam found himself returning to the station more often than before, not to catch a train, but to wait, hoping to see Alara again. The snow had melted, replaced by a crisp chill that hinted at spring's approach, but the memory of that winter day still held strong in his mind. He carried his sketchbook everywhere now, filled with drawings inspired by their moments together. The soft curve of her smile, the flutter of her scarf in the wind, the way her eyes held both sorrow and hope. Every line he drew felt like a piece of a story unfolding. One afternoon, as Liam sat on the familiar bench near the music box corner, he saw her approaching from across the platform. She was bundled in a lighter coat now, her red scarf still trailing behind like a thread tying their worlds together. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the noise of the station faded into silence again. No words were needed, just the simple acknowledgement of two lives that had found each other against all odds. Alara sat beside him, her breath visible in the cool air. "I've been thinking," she said softly, "about everything that happened. About my mother, the dance, the dreams." Liam nodded. "Me too. It feels like the past is still with us, guiding us." She smiled, but there was something deeper in her expression now. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I didn't say before." He looked at her, attentive and steady. "My mother kept a journal," Alara began, "full of stories, memories, even drawings. After she passed, I found it hidden away in a box." Liam's curiosity grew. "Have you read it all?" "Not yet," she said. "But there's one entry I think you need to see. It talks about a man she met once, a stranger who sketched her dancing in the station." Liam's heart skipped. "That sounds familiar." Alara reached into her bag and pulled out the worn leather journal. She flipped through the pages, stopping at a particular entry. "It's dated 20 years ago," she said. She wrote about meeting someone who changed her life, even though they never saw each other again. Liam read aloud the passage, his voice steady but full of wonder. Asterisk, "I met a man who carried a sketchbook, and he saw me dance like no one else ever had. For a moment, we shared a world beyond time, a connection that felt like a promise. Though our paths never crossed again, I carry that moment in my heart." Asterisk. Alara closed the journal gently. "It's like our story is a second chance, something meant to finish what was started years ago." Liam looked into her eyes, understanding the weight of her words. "Maybe we're living the dream my mind painted all along." She nodded. "Or maybe it was always meant to be this way." The train station, once just a place of comings and goings, had become a bridge between past and present, between memories and new beginnings. As they sat together, the sun broke through the clouds, casting warm light onto the platform. The world felt brighter, fuller, alive. Liam opened his sketchbook and showed Alara the new drawing he had made, a picture of them dancing together on the platform, snowflakes swirling around them, timeless and free. Alara's eyes glistened with tears. "I think my mother would have loved this." He smiled. "So do I." They stood, hands brushing as they rose. Outside, the train pulled into the station, its whistle sharp and clear. But this time, they didn't rush to board. Instead, they stepped onto the platform together, ready to write their own story, one not just dreamed, sketched, or remembered, but lived. And in that moment, beneath the open sky and the soft light of the afternoon, two hearts found their rhythm, forever entwined by the dance that began long before they met. The snow had melted, but the magic remained. And so did they.